Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Okay, another exciting episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast with Paddy Gopi. We have Prema in the background. He's looking good with his meta glasses.
Thank you very much.
And and our special guest for today is back to Shayen. Hey, Shayen.
Hello.
So there's a lot of things to talk to you about. Maybe I'll do a little introduction first. Shayen he's a wonderful devotee who's currently living in our contemporary Vedic ashram. He comes from a wonderful family of Vaishnavas. He's the manager of our Govinda's Cafe in Cardiff. And we've seen him grow and blossom in spiritual life in front of our eyes. And also he's growing up and taking responsibility for the movement and taking care of others and managing. But I think today we thought a good talking point would be you gave a talk in Cardiff University recently on, what was the topic?
The origin of life.
The origin of life. One of our favourite topics here at the Welsh Yogi Podcast. So, what do you think, Paddy? Should we hear from him about it?
Yes, please.
Have you guys spoken about the origin of life before on the podcast?
We've spoken about the origin. That's all we talk about is the origin of life. Okay. I mean, sometimes I go on little rants, which I'll try and refrain from today.
Okay.
But I think I want you to give us some real knowledge.
Yeah, it was really nice. I've been reading Bhagavad Gita, as it is, which talks a lot about, concepts like the soul and, the material energy and material nature and spiritual nature, which a lot of people aren't, as in maybe listeners of the Welsh Yogi Podcast are accustomed to these terms and kind of can juggle their way through all the jargon, but...
Is this how you started the talk in the uni?
No, this is just me talking about the origin
of
life in general, but and how I kind of prepared for the talk, I guess. But it seems like a lot of people in general aren't so accustomed with, especially the terms that Srila Prabhupada uses in his books. We're quite accustomed to them. We know that when we hear the material nature or the spiritual nature, we can understand that material nature is governed by time, which means there's a beginning and an end, and the spiritual nature means that which is not affected by time at all. So I was thinking about these kind of topics, and I've also I was listening to this brilliant chemist called James Torr,
right?
And he speaks a lot about the origin of life and what the actual science tells us, and how there's an actual effort underway by origin of life scientists to diminish what the definition of life is, so they can make something in their lab that classes as life. So
what's the current definition of life?
I'm not sure that it's fully agreed on.
Because in school we learned... Anyone learn Mrs. Gren?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention Mrs. Gren.
Mrs. R, Mrs.
When I first started this talk in Cardiff University, I sat down, said hi to everyone, gave a warm welcome, did a short kirtan. Everyone on the podcast knows what kirtan is, right? We did a bit of chanting of mantras. And then I had a slide which said, what is life? And then I said, what does it mean to be alive? What's the difference between something that's living, like me, Gopal and Pali, and something that's not, like this table?
Like Prema, who's dead.
No.
He didn't get a shout out.
So that was...
Prema is not dead, everyone.
That was...
You still alive, Prema? Yeah, okay.
I started the talk by throwing that question out into the crowd and giving them 4 minutes to brainstorm in small groups of 3 or 4.
So the question was, what is life? What's the difference between something living and something dead?
Yeah, what does it mean for something to count as life? And quite a few people mentioned it's either Mrs. Gren or Mrs. Nerg. People learn both, so...
Do you remember what Mrs. Gren was?
So
growing.
Movement is M.
Oh, yeah.
R is respiration. S,
G.
sensitivity. G is growth. R is reproduction. E is Oh.
E, Paddy?
excretion.
All right.
Oh, good morning.
And N is nutrition. So that's Mrs. Gran or Mrs. Nag. And yeah, it seems like that can be a good, for most things, it can be a good measurement of something that's alive or something that's not. But it doesn't cover everything. And a very typical example, which modern scientists can't actually decide if they're alive or not yet, are something like viruses, which, sometimes some scientists will say, yeah, they're alive because we can see them interacting in a way that it looks like they have a will. They're taking over cells, but other people will say, actually, they can't do Mrs. Gran or Mrs. Nag. They can't reproduce without being inside a host cell.
A few moments later.
Hey, thoughts, Paddy? You crying, Paddy?
I'm tearing because I've been yawning. And this, don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just wondering how I ended up on the science episode. Not my niche. Not my niche. But just listening to this, I'm thinking, okay, well, I can feel this in myself. Maybe others can relate. Why don't I care enough about like, why is this not like, what's going on in me that like, I'm hearing this, I'm not being like blown away out into space. Are my senses really dull? Am I dumb? Like, what's going on? And like, why, obviously, if you look out into the society, it's not like this is a hot topic off the press. In most people's minds, like, the way we live our life is very much like, I don't know.
Yeah, go with the flow.
And that's true, and I think that's why, I mean, in the last days, Srila Prabhupada, who's our founder of the movement, one of his main concerns, his main concerns were his books being published, distributed, the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium being built. And that was also connected to his other main concern, was that the sort of modern materialistic scientific view get smashed. Because it's a shame, like when we did the Meet the Monk, you have these young kids who are coming in, and it's true, most people, they're not atheists or theists, they're apatheists. People think there's a God, some people think there's not a God. Most people are just in between, like, there may be a God, there may not be, but I'll just have another beer and just continue with it. So most people don't, everyone just wants to be happy. But unfortunately, what it is now, if someone starts to look about, okay, what's the meaning of life? Who am I? Where do I come from? Let's look at some answers. Unfortunately, what they get is that, the real smart solution is that there is no God, there is no soul, you're just chemicals. Because to be honest, I'm not too, we shouldn't have to spend all this time dismantling a philosophy and picking the holes in something that just isn't true. But for the benefit of others, so others can have some faith in genuine spiritual life, then sometimes these things are needed, But if you're very, like Paddy said the other day, one of the things that attracts her in Christian consciousness is just the good vibes. Something like that, right? Yeah.
Sounds like something I'd say.
Just here for the vibes. And ultimately, that's true. That's a deep and under my boy sat. Everyone's just looking for love and for pleasure. The plant goes towards the sunlight naturally. The soul doesn't, you don't give up a pleasure in order just for some austerity, unless it's an austerity that you think will give you another pleasure in the future.
Well, positively phototropic.
Is that what it means?
Yeah, plants grow towards the sun.
Sorry, it's back to Rupert in the background. Yeah, so we're like that. We're positively
phototropic.
Pleasure-tropic. We're always looking for pleasure.
Yeah. Because also I feel like it's also not so much a fair of the mind and intelligence sometimes, like the heart's being drawn a certain direction. Do you know what I mean? You got to roll with that sometimes. Like, not all of us have like that super intelligence, like that Shayen is exhibiting, and yourself. So luckily, it's nice that spiritual life isn't based off of, your level of intelligence. Like it is like.
Well, no, I think you're very emotionally intelligent. You're very sensitive and very artistic, and you can pick up on social situations very well and pick up on how other people are feeling and stuff. And I think that's very useful. It's more, I think there's different. That's what I mean. Sometimes what goes into the name of intelligence isn't like Krishna gives knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita, and actually when he lists these items of knowledge, they're more actually like qualities almost, and they begin with humility, and they go on, and then talks about development of spiritual qualities also in the start of the 16th chapter. So. Yeah, again, I think this is part of the point as well. What goes under the name of science is more than just trying to understand this world.
As it is, yeah.
Yeah, which is there because you want to know what's going on and you should understand. And ultimately, spiritual life really means that you understand that everything is energies of God or Krishna, and Krishna's a person.
And that's pretty simple to understand.
Yeah, and you can't get away from that. So ultimately, if it's all about having this loving relationship with Krishna, then that's where it sort of connects. Then the acquirement of knowledge is actually knowledge about Krishna's energy. So it's ultimately knowledge about a person. And the more you know about Krishna, the more you fall in love with him, which is the good vibes everyone's searching for.
Also, on the theme of intelligence, there's that... I was just saying the Bhagavatams, Sumeda Saha. I can't remember the full verse anyway. It means those who are very intelligent.
Krishna Varnam Tvasha Krishna Sango Pangasta Parshan Yagya Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Hisameda.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So those who are very intelligent, they actually engage in Sankirtan. Yagya Sankirtana Praya means that they, chant the Hare Krishna mantra and give it to other people. That's, the very intelligent people. That's what, Medasaha means intelligent, but Sumedasa means
super intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. And that's what we encourage our Bhakti practitioners to do, is because when we read these books, when you read Bhagavad Gita, when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not just about collecting information. Like we were discussing about ChatGPT, like artificial intelligence, like you try and ask it a question, it gives an answer, which actually, if you know your subject matter, a lot of the times it's wrong.
Yeah.
Even today, when we asked it about, is it free to park on Bute Street? It said no, but actually it was. It is free to park today because it's Easter Sunday. So it's just, anyway, but it's the idea of just typing in a question and getting information. But the spiritual literatures aren't actually about that. Sure, you can acquire spiritual knowledge, but they're more about a relationship. You're having a relationship with Krishna, your relationship with Srila Prabhupada and these spiritual teachers that have passed this knowledge down. It's a heart-to-heart. So it's not just information content. I'm not just reading the Bhagavad Gita just to collect information about Krishna, but I'm doing it so I can spend time with Krishna. My heart can reflect the association of Krishna and these great souls, and it's about a relationship, ultimately, which is where things are going. We're losing these things now with ChatGPT or AI, or do you know what I mean? It's all about asking a question and getting knowledge back. Or even in the future, maybe even now, in schools, you'll have a robot will come in and just give you information. The kids will try and learn it, but actually, it's about relationship. And it'd be a sad world when we start to lose these relationships.
Because that's such a trip out in itself that scientists go so deep into so many things, but actually it's actually so simple.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I was making the point of life coming from life. That's what I was trying to say, and I jogged my memory, and I was saying, if, we come from parents and our parents come from parents, eventually it does trace back to, okay, what was the life that started all other life.
Mm-hmm.
And, the scientists make so many efforts to try and create life in a lab so they can say, look, it was Luca, and we can reproduce the environment that made Luca.
Luca's freaking me out.
But we say, we don't call it Luca, we say it was Krishna. The first
why do they have some hang up about Krishna? Like that, we'll look for any other explanation as long as it's not God. Yeah. It can't. You can come up with any crazy theory, as long as it doesn't include there being, a supreme intelligent design behind it all. Despite that is, a lot of people would say it's the most logical explanation.
It goes to show how deep in illusion we are, because it's incomprehensible as a conditioned soul who is so convinced that you're the center of the universe, to even theoretically think that, one, you're not the center of the universe, and there's...
Like I said in the... Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine, go on.
Like I said in the beginning, there's an effort underway to try and diminish the definition of life so they can make something that, meets up to that standard.
Just moving the goalposts.
But also, they'll use biological molecules that they take from other living beings. So they don't start from a prebiotic pathway. They take stuff that's alive already and use it to make something, which is kind of cheating if they want to really make Luca. And then they won't make something that's quite alive, but they'll use code words like, this is proto-life.
Uh-huh.
Are you saying they're trying to make Luca?
Yeah, essentially. So
I am Luca.
they'll say this is proto-life, and then you'll see on the headlines, okay, scientists created life.
So do they realize that they're trying to create God?
Yeah, and essentially, yeah.
I just love that because they're actually looking for God.
Yeah.
They're trying to make him. It just gets more and more bizarre. What a waste of time and money. Bag of Geeters are £5 maximum.
Yeah, well, £10. £5 if you use the Welsh Yogi Podcast code. So just to wind things up, what attracted you to spiritual life then, Shayen?
What attracted me to spiritual life?
Was it the good vibes? Was it the, wow, this is where life comes from? Or was it, come on, why? Because let me just interrupt you like I always do, but the first time I met you, we picked you up from a train station, Folkestone, and then eventually I think maybe we went to see a friend together, but then ultimately you came to stay with us in Wales because you wanted to join the ashram, right? You wanted to give full-time spiritual life a go. And I was wondering what inspired you to do that at such a young age. You were 18, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
And so
I think when I met you, I was 16.
16.
But
I guess younger every time you tell this story. 17, then a split difference.
No, I
So-
was 16 when I met
okay.
you. But by the time I wanted to move into the ashram and I came here, I was 18.
Okay. So
It was
what
2
inspired
years.
you to do that then?
Off a period. I feel like when I first came in, I met some devotees and I came to Kirtans.
Where was this now? Folkestone?
This was in Canterbury. No, this was in Margate.
Margate.
Or Canterbury. I think it first was in Canterbury.
Because you were a member of the, was it the Margate Massive? The big Margate gang that Shayen was a part of?
I feel like I was it kind of touched all like the base points for me. I was very into music, so the Kirtan was like something funky that I could vibe with. Because I love pretty much any genre of music.
Classical?
Yeah, I really like classical. I've been listening to Bach's Brandenburg concertos recently.
here we go.
It's technically Baroque, but
Baroque.
yeah.
This is turning into like a BBC Radio 4.
But so I like the musical aspect.
we will play Baroque.
I liked the musical aspect, but one thing that really kind of got me was the kind of quality of association.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the kind of people that you have access to connecting with on a deep personal level are kind of a bit more, and they've got these very nice qualities that basically shine out and kind of distinguish them from your average Joe because of the kind of depth of their spiritual practice and the efforts that they're making to improve their character, etc. So that really shined out, and you could feel like you can connect with them on so much of a deeper level than you can with most people that you come across in your life, even after such a short exchange.
Was that a similar thing with you as well, Paddy? I remember you saying, you told your story a little bit once, didn't you?
Yeah, the being attracted to the devotees seems
people,
to
the
be like a
devotees are a
main
thing.
common theme, which is interesting because that brought me back to what we were speaking about and how like the the crux of all science or whatever is relationships and love. So it's interesting that is like seems to be the thing that attracts devotees to the Krishna consciousness movement. Is like your soul knows that that's exactly what you're looking for. You get it right away, and it's also the absolute end goal as well, the ultimate relationship with Krishna. So it's fascinating. It's anyway. If anyone's got anything else to say.
No,
And
it's,
then, like,
it's a good point.
another thing. It
Mm.
was
I was
I'm,
thinking of something deep.
I'm not saying that it wasn't something that I liked, but a lot of other people I speak to say it was like the main thing that was the only thing that kept them coming back every week. But I liked the prasadam, but the prasadam wasn't like a main thing for me.
Uh-huh.
The main thing was probably the music. And
Do you think you're better than
people.
us?
No.
You just wanted to throw it out in the podcast that you
Yeah.
quite like this, but not that much.
My senses are controlled, by the way.
Yeah, we do have amazing food, but it wasn't
It's
one
not
of
that
the.
amazing, though.
It wasn't like the.
It is. Shayen's talking about in Margate.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was actually in Margate. It wasn't the thing that kept me coming every week. It was the music and the people mainly.
Kirtan and the people.
Especially I started learning mridanga and stuff. That was fun.
And that's another thing, actually, just on that point of the kirtan. Like Lord Chaitanya says, it's this kirtan is vidya vadu jivanam. This is actually, the kirtan is the life of all transcendental knowledge. The simile is like almost like a conjugal relationship. That this kirtan is the thing that really like inspires life into spiritual knowledge. So it's an interesting point that, if you do just talk philosophy or science, it can just be very, very dry. But this philosophy, when inspired by the bridegroom of kirtan, or vice versa, then, the Sankirtan, then it really brings everything to life. So it's a very important point. This is I mean, Krishna talks about knowledge a lot, especially in the the fourth chapter, like the real mature fruit of all sorts of sacrifices when it matures in transcendental knowledge. And transcendental knowledge means knowledge when it's connected to Krishna. Anyway, sorry, I'm just going on.
There was one last thing I said to the students. If that was
Go on, let's round it up.
it was from some notes that I took, but I said that the scientific law of biogenesis says that in nature, life comes from previously existing life
Did the students find this interesting?
of its own kind. Yeah.
They did, did they?
Of course, Shayen would say yes.
They loved it.
Every single science
No, go on.
I think it was quite a good crowd because a lot of the people we have do science-based degrees as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They were like, it was something they were cool.
Yeah, I did art, so you know what I'm at.
Every single science experiment ever done in biology proves this to be true, that life comes from previously existing life of its own kind. But in the past, not everyone understood this law. Some people thought that life formed from non-living chemicals. In fact, maybe even as late as the 1700s.
Are you reading this, or are you thinking
No,
about it? Are you
I've
reading
got a
as if
few
you're
notes.
thinking about
I've got
it?
a few notes.
All right, okay.
There
You
was
shouldn't have given him away like that.
I thought you were really acting it out.
there was a theory called abiogenesis,
Uh-huh.
and it basically said that under certain circumstances, life could arise on its own. And so a common example was, if you leave, some food out on a hot day, then there's going to get maggots in it.
You like that, do you, Prema?
So
Prema really likes maggots.
that was
everyone
one
just
piece
leave
of
it.
evidence was that life
That
could
was a
I want to get Prema one for his birthday. Give him a bowl of maggots.
That was one piece
Just
of
gobbles them
evidence
up.
they used
Sorry,
that life
sorry,
could pop into existence. Was okay if you leave food
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
it will get maggots in it.
You tell me this, yeah.
So they used maggots as an example of how life could arise out of non-living chemicals. But some scientists disagreed with it. It was very widely accepted that some life could just spawn in out of nowhere, like maggots.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this one scientist.
Spawn in is a computer game term for those who don't know.
This one scientist called Francesco Redi. He didn't think that life could spontaneously generate. So he thought that they could maybe be eggs laid from flies. So in the year 1688, he put some meat in jars and left some of them open and some of them sealed. And maggots were only found on the meat that the flies could reach, so the jar that was left open. So some people still disagreed with that and didn't think it was enough proof, saying that you needed air for abiogenesis to occur, which means life to just appear out of nowhere. So he did it, he then changed his experiment and added a third group of jars that had netting on top. So flies tried to get to the meat, but they could not. And instead, they laid their eggs on top of the netting, and maggots formed there. So then he proved that life didn't come from non-living chemicals. And this established the fact that life only comes from life of its own kind in nature. And then he wrote a paper and he said, many people still think that life can come into existence from non-living chemicals. And that's how they theorize that the first life came to be. But he says that, because life comes from life, we can trace it all the way back. And
Yeah, I mean, the similar example is used in the Bhagavad Gita as well, right? Prabhupada talks about scorpions laying eggs in rice. Do you remember that? So there'd be rice, and then these scorpions would come out, and then people thought that, maybe the rice gives birth to the scorpions somehow.
That's their name in Sanskrit, isn't it? Like something that comes from rice.
Born from rice.
Or grains.
Yeah, Sanskrit, but actually, no, there's just an unseen cause. Like that. How did the students respond then in the end? Did they
yeah, they were.
Any challenges?
Yeah, a few of them challenged me. And I just, I stayed calm and just tried to use kind of logic and evidence to try and break down what they were trying to say and the points they were making and why they were illogical. And they were actually quite understanding by the end of the talk. And
thing is, you're a sweetie, So people just, like we were saying, like people attract people. Like if you want to come to spiritual life, and sometimes even when you're having difficulty in spiritual life, all the philosophy in the world, won't help you as much as just having a friend.
Yeah.
And I think, that's why you're quite a good person to give the talk, is because you're very likable. And I think people probably like that. Yeah, if I was giving the talk, they'd be like, no, this guy's wrong. Because it was
there was some of that for me. But
you melted their heart.
Just thinking, because they can sense how much you care. It's like we always say, Gopal, isn't it? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So when like a devotee goes up and gives a talk, there's that mood of compassion for the conditioned souls, and people can sense that. But even if the most logical person in the world came up and gave that talk, there's no compassion. People, they might not necessarily feel as attracted to accepting the arguments. You can see that, Shayen's got his foundation is in the, his compassion to helping others. I just wanted to appreciate Shayen, because I remember.
There's a little Shayen appreciation moment.
don't do that.
I just remember like once, we would do, working in the cafe a lot together. But Shayen just loves to like discuss and have these intellectual discussions. Even on your day off, I remember you telling me a story where you went, he was like on a japa walk or something, and you went and like sat down on a bench with like a Jehovah's Witness and like a Christian or something, wasn't it? And just like had a debate with them or something for fun. Or
yeah, I remember that guy.
Don't go into it all now.
Is it too much? Yeah, but I just appreciating you. Like he really enjoyed it. Like he was like, really appreciating their arguments and like working them out. And it's just really rare, like someone.
You and Prema were the dream team in Govinda's.
Oh yeah, and Govinda's like.
Govinda's Cafe.
My
My mum and dad went there
in
yesterday.
that place.
My mum and dad thought it was delicious. They had a brilliant time.
No matter how busy it was, me and him could handle it.
Yeah.
We were like Hare Krishna Avengers.
We even used two mops at the end of the day to mop the floor.
Or 2 mops each.
No, we would have one each. We would both mop at the same time.
So you'd both get a mop and mop the floor. Actually, wow, you guys are whoa!
When we cleaned
you guys are changing the world.
When it changed to Govinda's, we actually cleaned it together too. Remember, like all the anyway.
Yeah, we like.
We've got many memories.
Wait a minute. Instead of just standing here doing nothing, if I grab a mop as well, that would be done earlier.
No, but it was so much fun because our conception of mopping was that only one person does it at a time, but then we got two, and it was
you broke out glass ceiling. Well done.
It was like Mario and Luigi at the same time, running around the map.
It's a 2-player game, Anyway,
Pally, any Shayen appreciations?
Shayen appreciation. I would just say, since Shayen came to the community here, he's just lifted the whole mood in such a way. Like, he brings such this fun, youthful energy.
So unserious.
Yeah, and obviously everyone adores him. So I thought that was a really amazing moment when Shayen came here and just But anyway, just changed everything. It's so nice to have you here.
Nice to be here.
All glories back to Shayen.
All glories.
Of course, the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
We will.
We'll try and do a talk on evolution next time. Then we can have another podcast.
Yeah.
Don't invite me.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone. Another episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast. And if you want to see Shayen in person and ask him lots and lots of questions, then please come down to Govinda's.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami